Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're welcoming back Eduardo from Pencil First Games and his YouTube channel, Gaming with Edo. His newest campaign, Nature Games Trio Bundle, Sunrise, Snowfall, and Floriferous, is currently on Kickstarter. Ed, welcome back to the binge. How you doing, my friend?
Hello. Nice to be here again. Good to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you, my friend. For those who haven't caught your prior episodes, I'm just going to name them off real quick. You were in episode 82. You were also in episode 166. So I encourage people to go back, check those out. They were great
A lot of
chats.
episodes you've done, sir.
This is now 281. 281.
Goodness. Goodness.
Yeah, we're getting up there, man. It's we're creeping in on the 300. I'm getting pretty excited about it. I think I do something special for 300. I just haven't figured that out yet, but I'm gonna have to figure it out fast because that's coming up probably in about 2.5 months. So yeah, it's
That's a great
crazy.
clip, man.
Yeah. So for those who don't know you, maybe you can do a quick overview of just kind of your portfolio as a whole. I know that your day job, which you'll be rushing off to after this, is in the video gaming industry. So can you give us
Sure,
just a
sure.
quick little snippet of that? Do you mind?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've had the good fortune of making some form of game for most my entire career. And yeah, so in the video game industry, when QA, design, production, product management, um, executive producer, that kind of thing. And on the board gaming side, coming on a decade, Pencil First Games will be a decade old in June or July of this year. Um, Made a lot of board games. My first was actually called a game called Murder of Crows, which I did with wasn't Pencil First Games. That was a game we got published by Atlas Games. I did with Thomas Denmark. But since then, Pencil First Games has been a Kickstarter first board game boutique board game publisher with Liftoff, Herbaceous, the Whatnot Cabinet, Skulk Hollow, Floriferous, Delicious. We have that Nature line,
Yeah.
the 100 Tory, and a handful of others. I think this Kickstarter that's up right now technically is if you count the two Gaming with Edo Kickstarters we did, our 20th Kickstarter. So that's a
Wow.
lot as well. Um, so yeah, I mean, all sorts of things.
How do you find the time for this? Because I know that, I mean, it's not like a part-time job. You've got like a full-time job, like a
Oh
career
yeah,
and
100%, hundred
and
percent
a
full
big
time
career.
job.
So
Yeah, yeah.
how and as an indie publisher, you're kind of like I know there's a broad team around you that is kind of bolted on and bolted off based on
Sure.
whoever is you're working with at the time, but how do you find time for that?
Um, it's a great question. Sometimes I ask myself that question. It's sometimes mornings like this where I'll get up early and do something, or weekends. But I think over the years, you know, there's both a lot to do with board games, but also they take a long time sometimes. So if you put it in along the way, you can get it done. Over as you mentioned, people bolt in, bolt off. Like each Pencil First Games is its own like little project. There are certainly folks that I've worked with on multiple ones, like Steve Finn or Stephen Kerr as a graphic designer. Um, but they sort of get spun up. The people have what they want to do, and they do it at their pace, and then we work on and put it out together. Over the years, I have been working with Jessica, who is effectively basically handles a lot of the incoming Pets First Games communications. She is heavily works on editing, and the Kickstarter does a whole bunch of everything. And she's really definitely helped create um, a lot of space. And one of the most important things among, like, I guess hundreds of things Jessica does is she she helps me not have to react immediately to stuff, right? Because I can't. I have to be doing my day job when I'm at it. So I think it's a combination of things. But I don't know. Also, once you've take, for example, having a Kickstarter we have right now, Kickstarters are stress balls. I've done videos on how to prepare and do them. But like at some point, you learn how to do it. Like at some point, you know how to be prepared. You know what the questions are. You know what you need to do. And when you remove all the stress out of a job or out of a hobby, or like, you can just enjoy it. Um, you'll find that actually the work part isn't as big as the emotional roller coaster part and all those other pieces. So that's
Yeah.
certainly been a big part of it.
No, amazing. Is there a favorite child that you have at all?
The interesting thing I find when you make games is that they're all different adventures with their own little memories. So I mean, I like them all for different reasons. I certainly still think Herbaceous, which is our one of our most successful titles, um, has a level of like simplicity and just um, what's a good word? Sort of like essence of game that is so natural and thin that it really stands out to me because it's such a limited experience, such a limited rule set, but plays and it's so much fun.
Hmm.
Um, Skulk Hollow has a close place to my heart, and the whole series in general was a idea that started from a conversation with my son, and then we bounced around, and then I got it to a certain point, and then I started working with Keith Mateka, and it has just been a great, fun series to be building out. I really enjoy it.
Is there any aspirations of ever extending into like heavier game sets? Because for your games for the most part are kind of like gateway kind of zone, right? For gaming, which is very similar to what we do here at Tin Robot. Has there been a thought to ever go deeper? And is it more of a time commitment that prevents you from doing that, or what's kind of your thought process around that?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the type of games I really enjoy playing, they're easy to get to the table. So it's certainly like it's not a spectrum for me of sort of like light and heavy is the cooler thing and light isn't. I really enjoy the light.
Yeah,
Heroes Welcome, which we did, is sort of medium weight. I mean, for me, that's like it's a pretty big box with a lot of stuff in it. That is a 45-minute hour game. Ori has a lot of stuff going. We have another game coming out later, well, hopefully coming together later this year, which is again in that medium, like light medium weight. The heaviest game is a game that's been in development, which is like codename Time Empire. It's been in development so long that some other games coming out that has the name Time Empire, so we got to change the code, the name of it or something like that. I don't know what it's going to be called, but that one's heavy. Okay, again, heavy for me is that's like a 90-minute game.
yeah.
Um, Legendary Creatures was also on the heavy side, so I think I've uh, sort of said differently. Um, for me, it is a hobby. It is something that I do, and I do it based on getting excited about some art or getting excited about some game mechanic or working with some people. And
Hmm.
so, there's no bar as like bigger games take a lot more work. There's a lot more complexity. Playtesting them are harder. You need, those types of things. But they're
Yeah.
not. It's not something that I wouldn't do if there wasn't a fun opportunity to do it.
And in terms of like the conferences and the cons, do you ever find time to be able to do the circuit, or is it just
I
too
would
much?
say that's a great question. I think that's one of the things that I definitely do way less.
Yeah.
Pencil first games. Okay, so I'll sort of answer it in two ways. We're like not a Kickstarter has enabled this world where we make what I think are fun, beautiful products. We can find an audience and bring it to market. And some of these then go into stores and stuff like that. But we don't do a lot of the other publisher stuff. We're not running around con to con to con and just all these other networking things. Like I don't have time for that. If I have a week off, I'm going to spend the week with my kids and my family. I'm not going to a bunch of cons. That's not to say we're never at a con, but
Yeah.
I regularly interact with some publishers such as Keith from Thunderworks Games, and they're like in it to win it. He's
Yeah.
full time. He's got a crew. They're employees. They have like their 9, 10 cons a year, um, and that's not really so. Um, on and off. There's Gamma. We are going to go to Gamma, and then I have a local con, KubaCon. Uh, that's pretty much it. Here and there might be like, oh, hey, this year maybe I'll stop at Gen Con, but even those aren't booths. Those are more like, hey, I'll go to a con.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, yeah, and that's not hasn't always been true. There were, if you go back, I don't know now, but maybe 5 or 6 years, I was sort of driving hard at it. I think one of the things that we've discovered is that um, the if you're not going to spend all that money and do all that marketing and do all that work, the best thing you could do is have a great game. So investing and spending time on making the game stand out gives it the opportunity to have legs and word of mouth. But uh, Pencil First Games has been around for a long time, and I'm happy to
Yeah.
say isn't like losing money. But it's definitely not. You know, it's a hobby. It's fun. I'm not making you know, a living off Pencil First Games, and frankly, I'm not really. I, it pays like for internet or something, but like
Yeah.
for the most part, any money that Pencil First makes goes into Pencil First future and products and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and uh, pays for things like you know Jessica being able to take that workload off and things like that. So it's really for me, and this is not true for everybody, but my opportunity to be creative, not have deadlines, not have stakeholders, and not have all of the trappings of what making a 50, 80, 100 person, 200 person video game takes.
Yeah.
And I just get to have fun. And so, you know, I that it's lasted a long way in that sort of style, and I suspect it will continue that way for a while.
I think even when you're talking earlier about, not having some of the trappings of having like the staff and having, a lot of the things that, some of these companies when they do full time, right? Where that's, you almost become a slave to the machine, right? Where if that is your gig, right? If
Sure.
that's the thing that generates your revenue and income, you have to keep that machine going, right? And especially if you have employees and so forth, people are relying on you for their livelihood. Now it's less about, hey, let's create something that's a passion project and all the fun and the creativeness around it, which is what initially got you into it. And now it's about running a business, right? And it's about, okay, now we got to make sure we're getting another title out. And how's that? What kind of revenue can we get for that? Is that going to cover payroll or not? Okay, well, maybe we need to squeeze another launch in like on the heels of that one. And I can see in the industry how there's really those kind of two camps, and those who still are able to maintain, their actual jobs and do this as a side hobby seem to be smiling more and have
Sure,
less gray
sure.
hair.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have some great coming in, but no, it's true. I mean, I would be misrepresenting to say that Pencil First Games doesn't feel some of those pressures for sure.
Sure.
And as Kickstarters become tighter and there's been more saturation, it's definitely like some of the projects that I know. Like for example, we did the a campaign that's just fulfilling is the Siblings Trouble Expanded Deluxe Edition, which is a sort of expansion to an original Kickstarter, like our third game or second game, and I don't know, maybe it had 150 backers. I think it did like a 10K goal, and it did like 10,500, right? Like a real
Oh,
squeaker.
wow.
And you walk away from that, and you're like, eh, maybe that was too much of a passion project.
Yeah.
Maybe it should have had flowers in it. But like but no, I think what you're saying is important, and I think that's the decision about going full time. And you know, I think it's true on both sides. It's true on that once you have to like worry about your livelihood. I was talking from um, Patrick from Leader Games
Mm.
and over the years, and he's talked about like sort of how that's impacted and how he's adjusting how he thinks about his games. Jamie also Stegmeyer has seen that transition over. It's not that he isn't doing fun stuff and all this stuff, but like having to think about it, having to take to account that. For me, again, I think that the thing I like most and the most meaningful thing for me about Pencil First Games over and working with folks and all that fun stuff was for the first, I'm not, I know I look young, but for the first decade of my career before Pencil First Games, Um, I all of my creative energy and sort of aspirational passion and creativity and game making went into my work in addition to, like my job side of it, but like all of that energy went in there too. And what happens
Yeah.
on the other side is that um, you know, companies go through different, they cancel games, people lose their jobs or their layoffs or whatever. There's all sorts of, like, at the end of the day, if you're working, like, you know, Disney cares a lot about its employees, but not like you exactly. You're just,
Hmm.
and as an example, but like as you work at these things, it's really hard when your work and your employment represent the entirety of your aspirations as an individual, like your sense of accomplishment, and it can create really a hard emotional tie to work. What I've really enjoyed about Pencil First Games is it lets me split that and sort of be like, I always have my little thing, right? Like, do my best, work hard, try to accomplish everything I can possibly can at my job and do the best I can. But, there's a thing that I have that, is not I control in a way that I appreciate and lets me be creative in my own accord and work and make cool things. So it's been a really nice balance in that regard. But if you're doing great in board games and you live in the Midwest, perhaps I think there is an opportunity to turn it into a full-time thing.
Absolutely. Now, with this new campaign, and congrats on being funded so quickly, and
Oh yeah, thank you.
you guys are obviously doing quite well at this campaign as well, which is expected now with Pencil First Games. Typically, your campaigns do well, except for the last one, of course, with the siblings.
Yeah, it was rough. It's
But
fine.
can you give us kind of an overview of what this campaign is about? It's a bundle, right? So you're taking some games that you had, so Floriferous, for instance, you've bundled it with some new ones. Can you give us kind of an overview of that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, you mentioned earlier, this is our Nature Trio campaign for Sunrise, Snowfall, and Floriferous Pocket Edition. And first and foremost, this is if you've never seen a Pencil First Games campaign or played any of our stuff, this one's great. These games are great, and if you're interested in Kickstarters, like I'm really proud of the page and everything that was put together. It's a lot, but for it's three games. The first game is Sunset. Excuse me, not Sunset. Sunrise at the Studio. I don't know if this is gonna come up on camera with all the filtering and stuff. See if I can get there. There we go. And this is our in our nature line. We have a lot of really welcoming, calm games that are wonderful players. They play in 20, 25 minutes, really easy to bring to the table. This is our small box size. And so in this game, you are making some awesome pottery. It's gorgeous. It's a set collection game with this interesting drafting mechanic where you are collecting resources and you're going to start with four cards in your hand and you're going to pick what you want, but you get three options. You get like keep two, pass two, keep three, dump one, or keep one and move the rest.
Mm.
And it's got this interesting push your luck element because in each day, you're only going to get to do each of those actions once, but you don't know what your cards are. So you're going to pick up four. Everyone's going to pick their action, whatever they want, and then we're going to distribute. And then we're going to keep doing that. And it creates a really interesting draft variant that feels fresh and cool. And then what you're doing is you're collecting clays and glaze and different kilns that you're going to use, and you are finishing projects. And then it has a little bit of a Rise of Augustus vibe, where first person to finish a project gets to say, like, I did it, I finished my project. And then you can go to the middle and get others. And then like a set collection game, there's bonuses and chase cards and things like that. But it's a lot of fun, and Laura Bevon, who is the artist, is amazing. The artwork's
The
fantastic.
artwork is
Uh,
gorgeous. I mean,
yeah, it really is. I mean, I feel
wow.
good. I'm like, this game is so good looking. And so that's that game. And and each on our Kickstarters that you have the game, and then we have like a mini expansion that's for
Mm.
free that doesn't go in the retail version. We sell them from our website later, but it's a nice little bonus in addition to sort of the discount. Um, but then the next two titles you mentioned, one is new, Snowfall Over Mountains, and this is a game that is a single player tile laying game. We have a pocket line.
Oh, that's
These
so cool.
these games are all really smaller, fit in a bag, fit in your pocket, a little bit of a big pocket depending on them.
Mhm.
Might not be a tight jean pocket, just to be clear, but they're small. And this one was I was actually talking with Roberta Taylor, who lives in like Edmonton, Canada,
Yeah.
in the cold, and we're talking about like trudging through the snow, um, and thought it would be really fun to make a game where you're just like walking through the snow alone. And like I grew up in New York, and I went to school in Michigan, and so like I'm used to the cold. I'm in California now, but I'm used to that like blanket of snow, and so yeah, and I started working on it. I was struggling a little bit, and then I've worked with Scott Caputo, who was the designer of the 100 Tory and like Mr. Tile Layer. And I
Yeah.
was struggling with my tile laying game. I was like, "Hey, Mr. Tile Layer, can you help me make this game good?" And he was
Mm.
like, "Sure, let me take a crack at it."
So
And
this
so
is
then,
your design, then you pulled them in to kind of polish it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, no
Well,
kidding.
they often start that way.
Yeah.
So for Sunrise at the Studio, I like knew I wanted to do pottery. I knew I wanted to do drafting. I knew I wanted to do set, and I had gotten it to a point. When you work with great, talented people who are like, since I'm like, I I call myself a game maker, but a producer, core project lead. There's different ways of doing it. Like,
Yeah.
but like I'm a generalist. Like I'm good at a lot of things. I'm very familiar with a lot of things, but I'm not a specialist. And so when you're working on something and you're like, this is good, but it's not great. Like, how can I make it great? It's like,
Yeah.
get somebody to help you who knows how to do this better. But yeah, so a lot of things start with, I have an idea of like a dynamic of like, this would be cool if you had this. And then I try to put the underpinnings underneath and like, wait a minute, why am I trying to do this? I'm going to get somebody who can do better. But so with Sunrise at the Studio and with Snowfall Over Mountains, I had a start. But in the case of Snowfall Over Mountains, um, Scott was basically like, he didn't say it. He's a very nice man, but he was like, I think your design's trash. I think what you're trying to do here is too complicated. And how about I just pitch you something totally different? And I was like,
Yeah.
sure, man. As long as it's a solo game and it's small, I want it to be a little thing I can play and have that like, here's the vibe, here's the size, here's the restrictions. And he's like, I got it, this is easy. And comes back like one day later. No, he came back, he goes off and does it. And it's like, oh, this is a really compelling, brain burning, fun little puzzle game. He worked on it with his wife, and we showed it, we saw it at some event and play tested, and it's great. And so really happy with it. um, and so that's the second game. And then the last game is Floriferous, which is it's currently our second best game, selling game in the nature line, but like rapidly trying to catch up to Herbaceous.
It's a great game. Yeah. I absolutely
Yeah,
love it.
it really is. It's a lot
Yeah.
of fun. And so the pocket edition is we make these small pocket editions. But what's super cool about them is they're like 1-to-1. Like we really do a nice job of shrinking
Mm.
it down. See, and then you get like it even has all the um, it has all the stones, it has the tokens, so they're
Mm.
really nice little small versions of the game. um and yeah, and so in the campaign you can back for just one of these if they're interesting. You can get the whole set. um there were two other pocket editions. We made the Herbaceous one and um sun Sunset Over Water. The whole line is these names that like you have to think about three times.
It's a
That's the
tongue
first games of
twister.
naming.
I remember I was
Yeah,
going through
yeah,
the intro and I'm like, I was like,
yeah.
I'm gonna mess this up. Just try and get this out of my mouth.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of like it is what it is at this point. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But at least when you search for it, you'll if you know it when you search for it, you'll find it. But yeah, so that's the trio. You get it with some of the other pocket editions. Um, and they're great games. They really come together. Steve uh, did an amazing job. These are fantastic designers, and Floriferous was also a collaboration between Steve and I.
Yeah.
I don't know, three,
The
4 years
pocket
ago.
edition, is it something that going forward, like is that kind of where you're going to start heading in terms of some of your future designs even as well? Would they start as a pocket size or
Yeah, it's interesting. It goes back to a little bit of the business side is in here, in that one of the things these pocket editions don't go to retail at all. So they're just the Kickstarter or sold from our website afterwards.
yeah.
Um, which there's a variety of reasons there, but it was something that we thought about doing. I mean, it all started with Herbaceous Pocket Edition. We had Herbaceous, and there was a French edition that was smaller,
Mm.
and they weren't the size of the cards we made them. They were like those Euro slightly smaller cards,
Yep.
and I was playing and I was like, this is sort of cool that it's a little smaller, but like, I wonder if you could make it smaller and like really make it pocket. Like it was like a little bit, it was a little bit, but not enough that it was interesting.
Yeah.
And then I was also like, and they didn't really try to solve the problems of like, okay, if it's that small, maybe take the names of the herbs off the cards and like let's do a few things because it's so tiny.
Yeah.
So that was sort of it. It was like, hey, could we do something really small? And it was great and I loved it. And then we decided to move it out and they've turned into sort of, not we don't make that much money, but like they're regular sellers from our site and we expanded it. And like each time I do something, I don't really have a plan. So it's like, oh, that was cool. Let's do Sunset of Water. That's cool. Of course, we're going to do Floriferous now. But like, these are all existing games. Wouldn't it be neat to do an original game? All right, well, maybe I can work with a designer. And that was the Snowfall game. So I think when I look at it, I do think we're going to continue doing them. I think that they're interesting. I think it'll be a combination of. I mean, we're not like button shy. Like we're not going to do like 1,000 of these, but I think I think it's fun. They're fun little games. They're easy to play, and it's the overhead. They're like super cheap to ship. So like they're fun little. They're like fun little projects that they don't lose money so far. So as long as it doesn't lose money, it's fine.
At that size, you could literally fulfill from China, right? Like
Oh
straight to
yeah,
backer if you wanted to.
yeah, we could. We use VFI, who's somebody who does something like that. There's that other ship from China one, but
Yeah.
that's still we don't do that for the United States. But you could. I mean, a lot of our games, we just ship in one of these, and
Oh
we
wow.
had another one, which was the Hanafuda pocket thing, which was part of the Tory campaign, and it was a lot of fun. That was another neat one to do. So my dancing camera here, but but yeah, look again, it's sort of like just about having fun, and it's about doing neat things, and I really like. I think they're great. Like I don't we even though our titles have had different levels of success, I think they're all fucking great. Excuse the language. I think they're all great. And so as long as they're fun and the people who work on them are proud of their work and I'm proud of it, it's one print run and done. It becomes something that, is a little bit more of an evergreen. That's great.
Yeah.
So, it's about having fun and doing it.
And so what do you guys have planned for, like, what's the next campaign? Like, is that coming at the end of this year or is it next year or what's coming next for you guys?
It's a great question. One of the things that we've prioritized over the last few years is really like just make sure the game's great. So we don't have like a scheduled Kickstarter like, so we're a little bit looser with the Kickstarter timing.
Yeah.
What I would say is that there's three things that are neat that are sort of on the horizon. One is another game with Steve. We'll see how that's going with that's coming along. That's always fun. But that one's pretty early. Second one is we have a really light, mid-light, interesting vineyard game that actually has been in development for a really long time. And then we connected with Roberta Taylor and we're really excited and have a fantastic design, and the art is Catherine Waddell, who's somebody who I've worked with on many things, and she's incredible. So we haven't like put it out there. Vineyard's the code name,
Yeah.
but that's one that we're hoping to play test and feel good. And if we feel good about it, that could be a Kickstarter end of this year, or
Oh,
not,
okay.
or like it's not, or it becomes a beginning. But that's probably the next one is the Vineyard game. I think is the closest, and then lastly we have the third game in the Skulk Hollow Peak World of War line, and that's at its own pace. It's if everything went well, maybe that would be this year, but probably next year. It gets since they're all like cross compatible. The more guardians and hero units and things you have, the more the matrix of testing and playing and balance gets. It's sort of almost unwieldy at this point, but we have fun playing it and doing it, so it's cool. But yeah, those are that's the horizon. I think maybe something I could see us coming back in October, but I don't know. Might be February.
Well, for those who want to check out this campaign, there's still 9 days to go. I'm going to put a link in the show notes so people can find it very easily.
Please do. It's any and all help is appreciated. It really makes a difference.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I'm going to be a backer myself. I was saying this just before we go on air. Like, I honestly said that. Like, my niece, who's comes to our game night quite frequently, is a huge fan of Floriferous and Herbaceous. So this pottery one, I know she's going to love. And then I need my own copies. And the mini, as soon as he said that it was shrunk down to pocket size, I'm like, I am in, because when I go to game night, I've got just so much I can cram in a game bag. And the smaller boxes, you get more games and more variety. You got more options when you have game night. So Ed, I want to wish you all the best in this coming year on this campaign. And if you launch another one, I'll hopefully get you back next year, back on the podcast, and we'll talk about that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't always have to be against the Kickstarter. I'm happy to talk with you, man. But yeah, that sounds great, and I appreciate being on, and thanks for making the time.
All right, buddy. You take care, man. Cheers.
Awesome. Bye.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.